Guys, I just got done beating Echoes of Wisdom. Thought I would give my 2 cents on the game for people that care about the opinions of a mid-30s-year-old dude. Still here? Alright, off we go. Originally, I wasn't going to get this game because I didn't really think it looked anything too special. I didn't really think the combat looked that impressive. But part of me was kind of like thinking, oh, maybe they weren't going to show us everything the game had to offer right up front, so I decided to pick it up on a whim and see what I felt about the game. I'm going to be honest with you guys right up front, I don't think the combat of this game was entirely anything special, if I'm being brutally honest. There was a part of me that really did not enjoy just watching all the echoes doing the fighting for me, and the part that I did enjoy the most was obviously when we could transform into a version of Link and use the swords and use the bow, and generally we went back to like a more Link style combat. So overall, I didn't really like the combat that much, apart from turning into Link. That was like the main part of the game I actually liked when I was fighting the enemies. There was part of me that was just genuinely frustrated over and over again every time I was just watching the enemies and the AI fight it out amongst themselves, and I was just sitting back wondering what was going on and when it was my turn to play. Things kind of changed a little bit the more I made energy potions as we went on, and I was able to transform into Link a lot more. But like, part of me felt like that kind of defeated the purpose of wanting to actually play as Zelda if I kind of just wanted to do the Link style gameplay in every single fight I got it. Part of me can't help but wonder if it would have been a better choice if Nintendo had actually went down a route of, you know, when they were advertising this game, she looked like she was essentially a mage. She kind of like has a staff and stuff. And I think it would have been really cool if they ended up doing like more mage range type combat with her. It would have been cool if you could have still summoned some certain echoes, but maybe you didn't have to summon everything that's in the game. Maybe have a couple here and there, or a few, but our main combat maybe like would have been something like shooting beams, lightning bolts. I'm just like spitballing here. It could be like anything like that. I would have preferred a more mage-like approach to the game, more ranged combat in general. Unfortunately, that's not actually what we got here, but I think like maybe that would have been a better choice. Obviously, I'm not the developer of the game. They decided this was the better route to go down, but I think for me, I couldn't help but feel every time I was in combat, I just wish I had like a ranged spell that I could use and control myself and actually fight myself, you know? I guess it just sounds like I'm critiquing the game a lot, but you know, that's kind of what happens every time I'm done playing a game. I kind of focus on the aspects that I didn't like too much and wonder what aspects would have made it more enjoyable for me. And another aspect of the game that I didn't enjoy too much was basically the getting from A to B in the game. Since Tears of the Kingdom came along, and basically getting across to a river is like a puzzle in itself. We've got to like build boats or build blocks just to get from A to B. They carried that forward into this game, and I have to say that is the biggest aspect of the game I absolutely just did not like. You know, I mean, I really hope that Zelda in the future doesn't go down this path forever, where they just let the player decide how they get from A to B. It's not really enjoyable for me. It got a wee bit more enjoyable once you got the water blocks eventually, but that's basically because you didn't have to think, oh, where do I put this table and where do I put this bed? I can just do water block, water block, water block. So I much preferred the water blocks just because it let me skip a lot of the so-called puzzles Nintendo were trying to make you do. Just to tap onto the inventory management of the game as well, I honestly don't understand, because it kind of like falls into the fact that we were going into our inventory a lot and getting beds and getting boards and getting chairs and all this. Like, I cannot believe they didn't create like a favorite system for you to have like your favorite things that you chose, because sometimes if you were like using a certain enemy, you had to like go through like half the list just to get there, or something inconvenient when it came to the UI management of the game. You know, I kind of wish that, I think they might patch it in eventually. They might patch in like a favorite system, and I do feel like that would work a lot better for the game, because you could just like put the few favorites up there that kind of like always work for getting from A to B. I think that would have been a good thing, and I do think they'll eventually add it in. I'd like to know what people think about that, or is the UI thing being all blown out of proportion? Maybe it is, but it's kind of like an extra layer on top of the frustration that getting from A to B causes, if you get where I'm coming from. As far as the story aspect of the game goes, I'd be lying to myself if I said I wasn't getting a little bit fed up with the same old go and do what the Garudus want you to do, go and do what the Gorons want, go and do what the Zoras want, and it kind of just feels like we're running the same course with every single Zelda game at this point in some ways, if you get where I'm coming from, to the point where I was kind of zoning out of the story that they were trying to tell, you know? I just didn't really care, because at the end of the day, we were still just going to the Gorons. And we've been going to the Gorons for years, man. We've been going to the Zoras for years. It's kind of like, I am hoping that one of the Zelda games that they do next, we kind of visit a new land entirely and meet some new races and new people and new bosses and stuff like that. I would much prefer that going forward, but like, as far as the story goes, I didn't like love it or anything, and it's mostly just because they're using the same old stuff that they've been using for like several other Zelda games. I didn't mind the story or anything, like rescuing Link, it was cool, and there's obviously like a new villain and all that stuff. But as far as like, you know, going to the same places but just in a different Zelda game, it's kind of like running its course with me a little bit. I'd love to know what other people think about stuff like that. Do you guys kind of want like a new Zelda to go to another land entirely, kind of similar to like what Majora's Mask done after Ocarina of Time? It was brand new everything, you know, and it's kind of like a different take entirely after Ocarina of Time, you know what I mean? I think that would be cool for a game going forward again. As far as the art style goes for the game, I made a video a little while ago kind of criticising the art style of the game. I wasn't really looking forward to the art style or anything. Wasn't a big fan of the chibi look. At the end of the day, I didn't mind it though. It gave off a pretty chill vibe while playing the game, you know, and it was a nice enough art style. It's no like I actually wanted that for the next Zelda game or anything, but like I say, I'm in my 30s and like my first Zelda game was the Ocarina of Time, and it's got a more darker approach to the game and a more realistic approach to the game with those graphics back then. But you know, this game is definitely not aimed towards like 30-year-olds or like older people. I don't think so. I mean, sure, you can still enjoy it being older, like we all do playing loads of games, but it's definitely catered more towards children, and I respect it. And I think like that is fine to cater like certain Zelda games towards kids or certain every games towards kids. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I just mean like overall, I think I didn't really vibe with the game as much because it is mostly made for kids over someone like me, you know? When it comes to like what I would have preferred for like a first ever like Zelda title where we play as Zelda, I mean, that's really hard to say. I've not even like sat down and thought about it. Did I expect this kind of game for it? Not really, but like what can you really expect of any game? I mean, it's hard, especially for Nintendo when they cater to so many different age groups with their major IPs. You know, I mean, I first bought Zelda when I was a kid as well. So it's like, if it came down to me, though, I probably would have done a more realistic approach for a Zelda game. You know, maybe, like, because I grew up playing Ocarina of Time, I would have loved a Zelda game where we maybe played as Sheik in certain areas of the game and stuff. And, you know, that kind of stuff would have made me nostalgic. One of my most nostalgic parts of this game was when we seen, like, a familiar boss from one of the Ocarina of Time dungeons. And I actually got a bit nostalgic when that happened. It ended up being my favourite boss of the game, actually. But, yeah, if it came down to me, I would have much preferred like a realistic art style approach to the game over what we got here. But I genuinely do think if like children will absolutely enjoy this game, and Nintendo have probably secured their next 20 years worth of fandom just from bringing out games like this, because at the end of the day, that is how it goes. You cannot make games constantly for the people like me that are growing up alongside the games. They also have to cater to new audiences that will still be with them in 20, 30, 40 years time as well, and that is how gaming goes as a whole. So overall, like, what did I think of this game? I didn't love it, but I also didn't hate it. I thought it was okay. Will I ever play this game again? I don't think so, to be honest. Usually, like a Zelda game, if it's a really good Zelda game, it's got me itching to replay it on like a yearly basis. I don't think I'll play this game again because the gameplay doesn't scratch any Zelda itch that I've ever had, to be brutally honest. But yeah, it was a fun blast for what it was, and I can't really ask anything more of that. I don't really do scores on this channel, and this isn't necessarily a review. It's more of like an impressions after beating the game and what I thought about it, but realistically, I think like a 6 out of 10 for someone in my age group and you know, who's played Zelda a long time and this isn't his style, like I would probably give it like a 6 out of 10. I don't think it was quite good enough to be a 7, because a 7's like a really good game in my book. I'd give it like a 6 or something. Guys, let me know what you thought about Echoes of Wisdom though. I do apologise for no liking every single thing about it. I know I'm going to get crucified by a lot of Nintendo fans and stuff, but I'm okay with that. It's like, you know, I've been playing Zelda since Ocarina of Time. I've played a lot of Zelda games. I've even played ones before then. And I've kind of like got an idea of what I like most in the series rather than other things. And because this one's more aged towards children, I just don't think it vibes with me all that well. But there is aspects of the game I enjoyed. Let me know what you actually thought about Echoes of Wisdom though. And thanks a lot to everybody who watched the video. I'll catch you in the next one.